This is Pioneer Field Agronomist Scott Eversgerd with a weekly agronomy message. This past weekend and later part of last week, we started to find some armyworms in soybean fields, mainly in the later planted beans, as well as in some double crop beans. The thresholds are basically after an R1, you're looking at 3 to 4 worms per foot a row would be the threshold you'd be looking at to treat. Again, after an R1, about 3 to 4 per foot a row. SDS, we're seeing a little bit show up, especially in some earlier beans, some group 2s in the south. SDS is showing up a little bit, but overall not bad. A lot of the late 3s and early 4s, although we're seeing a hint of it here and there, still not hitting us extremely bad. That could present itself a little more as we progress through late summer here, but every day we don't have it as a good day, meaning we're one day closer to maturity. The other question I'm getting quite a bit on is bean height. Obviously the beans did get a lot of height to them this year. And what about lodging? Lodging is all about severity and timing. If the beans just squat after a heavy rain or some wind and they kind of come back up, obviously very little yield loss. What we do see is when you're looking at the beans up to about an R3, we see very little effect on final yield. R3 to R5 is probably the timing that will have the biggest negative effect on yield. And once we get to R5 and after, the beans are far enough along to where a little bit of lodging doesn't seem to hurt a whole lot. So again, R3 to R5 is probably the most critical stage where we seem to lose the most yield from lodging in soybeans. On the corn front, a couple weeks ago there, when we did see those mid 90 degree temperatures, it was kind of drying out some areas. We definitely saw the corn change, reaching physiological maturity very quickly. We are also seeing some stalk rots out there. It's a good idea to keep a pretty close eye on some of these fields. It's really a stalk rot complex, what I've found in most corn plants. Could be a little bit of diplodia or gib or anthracnose, with probably anthracnose being the most prevalent one out there right now, where it's kind of clogging up that vascular system and killing that whole plant. Again, just kind of keep an eye on it, and as the crop continues to dry down, it will actually harden off a little bit as that rind dries out, and some of that probably won't be an issue. As far as dry down on the corn, remember from black layer down to 25 takes about 30 GDUs per point of moisture. And once you get under 25, it's a little harder to get out. So it's going to take about 45 GDUs per point of moisture. It looks like the most common theme I've heard is a lot of guys are going to start probably the Tuesday after Labor Day on harvest and expecting a lot of corn. Some of the early April or even late March corn will probably be in the mid to upper 20s by then. Still a little bit of time left here to sow some alfalfa. If you have a notion to try and get some new seedings in the ground, again, we're recommending around 18 to 20 pounds per acre. That may seem a touch high, but it's always been my thought if you're going to go through the process of working the ground and getting everything prepared and worked well, you hate for a light seeding rate to be the cause of not getting a good stand. So we like to see that 18 to 20 pounds per acre. As always, if you have any other questions, please contact your Pioneer sales rep. Thanks.